So should you really care about replatforming as a financial advisor, or even somebody who's invested into the market as via an investment platform? And well, that answer is a resounding yes, in capitals, like a capital yes. Absolutely, you should care about this. And my guest this morning is Mickey Gambale. He's the executive of Ignite. He's an unconventional executive with a need for speed in the sense of fast cars and even faster bikes. And he has, over the last 20 years, built up his business experience to include a vast range of financial service skills. And so if you want to get ahead and you want to be prepared for this process that is definitely going to touch your business in some way, shape, or form, then today's show is what you were looking for. So join us this morning for a riveting show, and let's get it started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back. Another Friday, episode 37 of season 3. It's episode 197 since we started. So welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us live this morning. If you're watching the recording, a massive thank you as well. And today I want to implore you that if you are finding value from this video and from today's show and today's episode and the discussion that we're going to have, please hit that like button. It's the little one with a thumbs up. Just hit that one, help us get the message out there that this is very valuable. So that'll be great. But yeah, this morning we have Mr. David Kopp in the house for the FBI Current Affairs. This will be David's last show for now. I've got other plans for David, but yes, as you know, that he is finishing off at the FBI. So today he has the privilege from the FBI side to be doing the show today. So David, thank you very much. We look forward to that. Then we have Norma, and Norma is talking about how we escape our lives, and looking forward to that segment as well. A couple of announcements, and of course, then get into the discussion with Mickey Gambale around re-platforming. And I don't know about you, but when I heard this word for the first time, I was like, I wonder what this is. And then I thought I knew what this was. And then as I started looking at this, because we were going to talk about this, then like, oh yeah, this is a very, 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 very important conversation to have. And really looking forward to that. So yeah, before we get into today's show, as ouder gewoonte, let's say good morning to everybody who's been in early. We've got Mark Westonford in first. Good morning, Marky. I hope you're doing well. Mr. Kobus Klein, good morning. And he's saying morning to Mickey and Nate as well. So good morning, nice to see you. Albert Fritz, good morning. It's such a beautiful, crisp Friday morning in Gauteng. Apparently, there's no work being done in Cape Town today as well, because Mickey said it's the most beautiful day. So we know what happens in Cape Town when there's beautiful weather. Nothing. So yeah, Harry Nell, good morning. Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. Eloise, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Nice to see you. Mr. Terence Tobin himself, hi, and a good morning. It's a good morning, Terence. You know the story. Morning, Lelani. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for saying hi. Jonita Mulman, good morning. Nice to see you as well. Govendra, my machtig, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well, my friend. And then Dr. Rufaro Macheka, nice to see you. I saw like half a second of you at the FBI convention, and then you were gone and I was gone, and like, I don't know, that just wasn't right. Anyway, so we've got Mark Lane, my friend down in Australia. Good morning. Nice to see you this morning. We've got Gloria. Good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for saying hi. Julie Hughes, good morning. Awesome to see you. Thank you very much. We've got Michelle saying hi. Good morning. We've got Almin, good morning, good morning. And then we've got Xavier, good morning. Sure, I'm running out of breath now. Mary, good morning. And Casper Creer, good morning. Nice to see you all. Thank you very much for saying hi. Alrighty, so with that, let's get into today's show. And first up, we've got David for the last time with the news. It's not the last time we'll hear the current affairs, but it's the last time that David's going to do it. And he's such a staple part of the show. And yeah, looking forward to this one. David, over to you, bud.
Hello everyone, and in today's current affairs we're going to talk medium-term budget, crypto exemptions, and the slinky spring. So Minister Godwana spoke about the medium-term budget statement this week, and some of the highlights on that is that government will be taking on a significant portion of Eskom's 400 billion rand debt. While the exact figure is not yet known, it is said between 1/3 and 2/3 of the current power utilities debt will be taken on by governments, so between 130 billion and 260 billion rand. For the last decade, we have spent billions of rand supporting Eskom with limited improvements in the reliability of the electricity supply or the financial health of the company. The debt takeover, once finalized, together with other reforms, will ensure that Eskom is financially stable. The program will allow Eskom to focus on plant performance and capital investment to ensure it no longer relies on government bailouts. Importantly, the program will include strict conditions that required of Eskom and other stakers before, during, and after the debt transfer. These conditions will address Eskom's structural challenges by managing its costs, addressing municipal and household arrears due to the utility, and providing greater clarity, transparency in tariff pricing. In addition, the conditions will be informed by a National Treasury-led independent review of Eskom's operations, in particular the performance of the generation fleet. So no more bailouts for Eskom, but a total takeover of the debt. So very interesting to see what will come of this, because as we know, Eskom is one of the biggest risks to the South African economy at the moment. Then for Gauteng residents, well, sort of the scrapping of e-tolls. So the minister announced that the debate around e-tolling on a national level will come to an end, saying that the uncertainty surrounding the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project continues to have major negative implications for road construction in the country. We need to move on from the debates of previous years and find solutions to this challenge. To resolve the funding impasse, Gauteng provincial government has agreed to contribute 30% to settling SANRAL's debt and interest obligations, while the national government covers the remaining 70%. So while it's not removed totally from the picture, because Gauteng department still needs to cover the costs of road improvements, for all intents and purposes, e-tolls are gone. Then there are more bailouts for state-owned enterprises in the budget. So 23.7 billion for SANRAL to pay off the government debt, 5.8 billion for Transnet, and 204 million for Denel. So hopefully this will bring some of these companies back up to delivering what they should be. Then for grant recipients, the grant for the COVID-19 social distress has been extended for another year until the 31st of March 2024. And then interestingly, with the wage bill, government is moving ahead with the proposed wage increases of 3% for government employees, as opposed to the 10% they were demanding. So again, let's see how that lands and what goes on with it. So overall, obviously, Minister's budget has shown that there are some major economic updates that are coming, and hopefully some of the interventions will move the country forward. Then last week, my colleague reported on the fact that crypto assets have been declared a product for financial services purposes. This week, we've got a raft of exemptions. So obviously with it coming in and the licensing requirements are not in yet and will only open in next year, June, people have been exempted from certain requirements. We've also seen some new introduction of new definitions, such as crypto asset miner, node operator, and non-fungible tokens in our legislation. So the exemption applies to things like competency requirements, qualifications, as long as the crypto asset providers submit their application by the 1st of June 2023 up until the 30th of November 2023. So things like the competency requirements, Section 13 of the General Code, the qualification, the regulatory exams, and the CPD has all been exempted until such time as a licensing can be sorted out. Then in a final Bri story for you, the slinky spring was actually invented by accident. Inventor Richard James, a naval engineer, was trying to create a spring that could help stabilize equipment on boats in choppy waters. However, his spring's ability to move seemingly on its own proved more interesting and became the prototype for the slinky in 1943. So Francois, back to you in the studio for the final time on the news and current affairs segment. And it's been a privilege presenting to the community over the last 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Yes, much appreciated. I remember fondly when I ran into you at the here in Krugersdorp at the Steers, if I remember correctly, and saying like, look, I've got this idea. Would the FBI be interested in doing a segment? And I remember your first answer was absolutely yes, but you will come back to me, and you did. And 2 years. So yeah, thank you. Okay, folks. Let's go. Oh, take a hold of yourself, brother. Right. Next up, how do we escape our lives with Norma, with Coach's Corner? Really looking forward to that. And Norma, I hope you're ready, because here we go. Over to you.
Good morning. My topic for today is how we are escaping our lives. So this topic was really triggered when I, in the beginning of this week, just asked myself this question, that how would my life be different if I did every single thing that I said I was going to do? So actually just keeping those promises that I make to myself. So I set, let's say, 5 things that I wanted to accomplish by the end of this week. And I really found that it's a lot more challenging than we think it is. So what made me also think that how we escape our lives, and this is where this topic comes from. So let me tell you all about it and see how it fits in to us getting our results. So let's look at what this escaping our life really is, why we're doing it, and also then how we can change it if we feel it's something that's not working for us. So what I mean by escaping our lives is really just when we have that negative emotion come up, we experience that negative emotion, which is that discomfort that we feel, and then we don't allow it. We resist it, we react to it, or we avoid it. So we don't like this emotion. Now we want to go distract ourselves. So we go and do something else. And it really, to me, feels like this urge to just go and do something, just to get away from feeling whatever I'm feeling, this discomfort. So why we do it is simply to feel better, to have that instant gratification. So I always talk about our lives being 50-50. So this little illustration shows it perfectly. So half of the time we are in positive emotion, which is those emotions that we like feeling. And half of the time, the other half is where we have negative emotions, and that is the part that we don't like feeling. So the problem is when we are in this section or this space and we think there's something wrong with it. I shouldn't be feeling this. This is wrong. I'm doing something wrong. And then we try and get out of it and we try and move into the positive emotions. But that isn't really going to solve whatever we are going through at that moment. So what we want to do is just feel better. So instead of moving to being happy or being excited, we actually we make this circle a little bit bigger, because now we feel this emotion that is hard, and we are trying to distract ourselves. And if we distract ourselves, we normally go and we eat, or we drink something, or we go overwork, or we scroll, or we shop. So that gives us a net negative, because, you know, if I feel frustrated, for instance, and I don't deal with it, then I go and eat. So then I eat something that's maybe not on my plan, and I beat myself up afterwards, and I've gained the weight. So we can really see that distracting ourselves from what we're feeling isn't giving us the result that we want. So why do we need to allow emotions? It's really what I've been alluded to this whole time, is that we need to allow it because our feelings drive all of our actions. So just think in your own life, if you want to take action from frustration, what the result looks like. And then when you're taking action from inspiration, what that result looks like. So there's nothing wrong with feeling negative emotions. We just need to allow it and experience it and let it just sort of run through our bodies, and then we can continue what we were doing before. So how do we get out of it? How do we, if we see it's not working for us, what can we do to stop it or change it? And that is really not that hard. We really just need to pause. And I know a lot of times when we're starting to gain awareness of this, we only realize it after the fact. But if we can get to a place where we can just pause and just allow whatever we are experiencing, and then try and see where it is in your body, then naming it. So for me, for instance, frustration, for instance, I'm busy doing a project. It's quite difficult. I haven't done it ever before. And there's quite a lot of new concepts that I need to learn. I have to do a lot of research. So a lot of frustration will be coming up. So I name it frustration. And then I start describing it for myself. So it's in my chest area, maybe give it a shape, a color, what it feels like. Is it moving? And then just noticing how it changes. And then start questioning it. So why am I feeling this? Oh, it's because I'm doing something new. It's quite frustrating because it takes me longer than I thought it was. And this just getting curious and just reassuring myself that I want to do this right now because I want to get to the end result. I want that long-term reward and I don't want to feel good right now. So my challenge to you this week is maybe go and find and just discover where you are maybe escaping your life. Where are you maybe feeling these hard emotions or difficult emotions and you just want to get away from it instead of allowing it and then see what happens next. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that this was helpful. It was definitely helped me in my life, moving more towards the result that I want. So that's it from me. I'll be back next week.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Norma. Appreciate that. Just a couple of announcements quickly, and what I need to share with you. Just a final reminder. Last week was the final one. This is the absolute final one because the 31st of October is on Monday. And if you're interested in getting involved in the speaker and influencer program that we've got that starts early next year, and you want to learn how to really communicate with impact, then this is definitely the program. It's a fully sponsored program. There's an application process. So please, if you are interested, go and visit financialplanningconference.global, and you will be able to see what's just a little form that you need to fill in. Please tell us why you are to be part of this. It is important that you are fully committed to this. It runs from February until May. The Global Financial Planning Conference, where you will be able to go and speak on the virtual stage, happens on the 16th and 17th of May. So don't miss this opportunity. I've seen so many of the people that's gone through this on TV now, on radio, just on social media in general, and the confidence and things that were built during this program just blows my mind to see this. People that's been on this 2 years ago when we brought it to South Africa for the first time last year. Like, it's just incredible the impact that this program has on people's lives, their businesses, and how they portray themselves and build their brand. So if this is something you want to get into, go to financialplanningconference.global, submit your interest there, and then we will be in contact shortly to see. There's only 30 spaces, so do go and do that. Alrighty. Then the next one is also then just very quickly, the PROpulsion Tech event taking place on the 7th and 8th of March. Please make sure you save the date. More info will be communicated shortly. There's already some information on our website at propulsion.co.za, so you'll find it there under the events. But yeah, we will definitely be communicating more. If you are somebody that would want to get involved from a sponsorship point of view and see how this can benefit your business, please also do get in touch with me. And the last thing, I've got quite a few awesome guests coming up as well. We've already had a flurry of amazing guests this year. And our next three that's coming up is Anton Swanepoel next week. So we're going to do a bit of a regulatory update, but also just get into some conversations I think that Anton doesn't usually get into, because I will go and ask him those questions. Then we have Julie Anley from Beeswax. We're going to talk all about compliance. And if there's one thing you don't want to miss, it's that session, because her take on compliance and her stories and the way that she just puts another why on compliance is absolutely mind-blowing and amazing. You've got to come and see that. And then we have, I'll leave that to the end. I'm going to tell you at the end who's our third guest, going to be in 3 weeks' time for episode 40. I'll come back to that one. Alrighty, ladies and gents, with that, let's get into today's proper segment here. And today my guest is Miggy Gambale. He's the executive at Innate, but I'll introduce him on the other side of this. morning, Mickey.
How's it?
Well, and yourself?
Lekker, man, lekker.
Cool stuff. Let me just do a brief introduction here. So, as I said earlier in the intro as well, that Mickey is an unconventional executive with a need for speed, and we're talking about cars, but even faster bikes, which I really like. So that's awesome. He has over 20 years experience, over 20 years rather, built up his business experience, and it includes a vast range of financial service skills. He has really done everything from starting a micro lending and an e-commerce business to being an executive at a corporate level, and has the tertiary education to back it. And so really, really fortunate. Mickey, warm welcome to PROpulsion Live officially.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, and to all the guys watching, thanks for coming and listening and giving me some time this morning to chat to you guys.
Yeah, it's such an important topic because, like as I said as well earlier, that the first time I heard this word replatforming, I was just like, what's this? So I sort of made something up in my mind about what I think it was. And then as I got a little bit deeper into that subject, I was sort of like, whoa, this is something that is not being talked about that much. I think probably behind closed doors, I guess people are talking about it, but I don't know out in the open how much it's been there. So I've heard a lot from Inate's side about this, and hence why we're talking to you this morning. I think you've gone through a journey that you're sitting here 4, 5, 6 years later, and you can talk from pain and experience, I guess. So that's why we've got you here, Mickey. But before we sort of really get into the conversation, what are we really talking about when we talk about just a platform in general? Like when we use the word platform, never mind nog replatforming, but if you talk about a platform in the investment space, what are we talking about?
Cool. So Francois, probably the easiest way to describe it is to first start with a regulatory explanation of what it is, which is it's a list business, a category 3 business in terms of phase. And the guys will remember, I suppose, the terminology list platform. And back in the day when you used to go to a list platform and buy unit trust funds, and then eventually those unit trust funds, started getting more wrapper capability around them. So you could buy RAs on a list with a range of unit trust funds or living annuities, endowments, etc. And really, when we've started to use the word platform, it's really because LISP has moved sort of to the next generation. So if I use an analogy, if LISPs were 3G, if I could use a cell phone analogy, we've really gone to 5G when we start to use the word platform. And so platforms really start to become this supermarket and this administrative capability where you can truly execute your financial planning investment needs for clients and actually get access to a range of different investment types, investment classes, investment wrappers, all in one place. So it's really to make life easier and to give accessibility.
So very much like a mall, almost like, if you go like, I need certain things, but I can go to one place and find them all. And then, I mean, is a platform really, is that a system that sits in Inate's back office and on your systems and that I get access to? Is it something that lives in the cloud? Like where does this platform live?
So platform, I think, is a very appropriate word, and the fact that we've changed the name, sort of from a list to a platform, because they actually sit everywhere. If you think of a platform in the true sense, and again, if I compare it to something like an Amazon or an eBay, where you have this platform capability, or the Apple Store, where you can go and get a range of things, that's really what we've built in Inate, and that's really what true platforms should be. So if you look at our business, we have aspects of the platform sitting all over the place. In fact, we've got 17 different integrations, and we're only just starting. And the platform is so much more than just a supermarket. It's also an experience, and we've spent a hell of a lot of time building this platform experience, that ease, that fast execution, and bringing additional capabilities in. A platform's not just about, what are you accessing, but it's about bringing additional capabilities and additional value. And so that's why we've started to use this word platform.
And then, so if this is sort of a going from 3G to 5G, and you've got this, now we talk about a platform and it's got a very specific meaning, then how do we define replatforming?
So replatforming, that's the big buzzword at the moment coming on shore in South Africa. And a lot of the guys are talking about it. And essentially what replatforming is it's a strategy that takes your existing business and your old legacy technology and your legacy environments and reworks them into a modern way of working, into a modern way of thinking, and really moves your business to that 5G example, where it's much faster, it's much more efficient, there's much more accessibility. And so it's out with the old and in with the new when we talk about replatforming.
Cool, because I think like this is, and I guess I'll get to the question about how it does actually impact people on the ground at the end. But it is understanding that if you're going to move from what you have, this is like moving house. When is that a fair assumption to make or a fair statement to make? Is this like I'm selling this? Well, not really selling, but I'm selling this house, moving to another house. So there's a whole process.
It's even more. I don't know if you've ever watched those shows on reality TV where you get these hoarders and they've just got everything packed in their house and it's just piled up to the ceiling. That's exactly what replatforming is, because if you think about the history of how LISPs worked in South Africa, they were very admin based. Many things ran on Excel spreadsheets. There were a lot of people in the background, cranking handles, doing work, executing trade. So you had a very, very full house. Now you want to pick this up and move into a nice modern house, nice and clean and neat and everything's sparkly and shiny. And so it's a massive task to get this right, and a massive cultural change within your business, as well as within the customers that use that business in terms of how they engage it and use it.
Yeah, now I'm getting all these visions or pictures in my head of, now you've got all this stuff stacked to the steering. Now you're moving to a new place. What do you take with you and what do you leave behind? I guess that's the big question, because you can't take everything with you. It's not necessarily that a platform means you've got a bigger house. It just means you've got a house built for purpose now, and you've now learned over the years what's really necessary, and also thinking about what my needs might be into the future.
It's exactly that, Francois. So what do you take with you? And I think that's the big conundrum and the big difficulty when businesses embark on replatforming and how they think about going about replatforming. The truth is there's going to be a fundamental change in how you run your business, both internally and how your business presents itself externally. And that's not an easy task to get right. As leadership within organizations, that takes a hell of a lot of change management. And so you've really got to go into these things wide open. And it's because of that if you look at what's happened overseas, if you look at the Australian markets, if you look at the markets in the UK, etc., you'll find that guys often underestimated replatforming. They often underestimated the amount of time it would take, the amount of capital it would take, the impact on the business. And time, capital, impact on business, what does that result in? That results in impact on our financial advisors and consumers ultimately. And so people really need to go in with their eyes wide open.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the current state of the investment industry, if I might call it that. Specifically, if we think about South Africa, and I mean we've got asset managers and investment product houses that's been around for donkey's years, and we've got a lot of boutique kind of setups now. My question is just, let's start off with the technology part. Like, how do we in SA stack up against the rest of the world? Because I think often, like that's first, like, what is the UK doing and Oz and this and that, and then how do we stack up against those? I don't know if that's an appropriate place to start, but I mean, how are we stacking up?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start, and maybe let me start with what we had in terms of LISPs and platforms. So from a product capability perspective, in terms of what you can do in a LISP environment, what wrappers you had accessibility to, what sort of fund ranges and asset classes you had, we were actually extremely advanced. If you look at some of the product capability that we had in South Africa, like personal share portfolios, PSPs, that a lot of the wealth managers that use in the market, some of the structured products that you get in the LISP platform, we had that capability as the South African market way before anybody had that overseas in their platform capabilities. The very big difference, and like I said earlier, was that our processes, our systems, our back office environments were extremely manual. Now, the big difference with overseas is that they spent a lot of money on bringing technology into their environments and really thinking about how they run their businesses differently. And what that technology ultimately did overseas was it brought a lot of operational efficiencies, which ultimately drives down costs, because you don't have these big administrative back offices and costs involved and errors that happen that you need to cover for. And that obviously translates into better value for clients. Clearly, you get innovation around product capability, etc. And those things come with time as the market gets more and more advanced. But that's really the big difference between what had happened overseas and where we find ourselves now in SA. South African market's woken up. They've realized now that they can't keep cranking handles and doing things manually. And so many of the competitors out there have started to embark on a journey of replatforming. Many of our large competitors and product providers out there are embarking on this journey to replatform and upgrade their technology.
So is this, I mean, I get sort of what we've spoken about up to this point, but is this whole replatforming thing, is that a necessity, or is it just a nice thing to do? In other words, is it like, I want the latest, shiniest tech, the sleekest tech? Apart from that, it does make a ton of sense from a business. I mean, it's actually a no-brainer. So I'm maybe answering the question myself, but is this a real necessity for, like, investment managers all over the world to embark on this?
Yeah, Francois, it's absolutely a necessity, because if you look at the day and age we live in today, it's all about experience. It's all about meeting customer demands. It's all about having information at your fingertips. And that's really what the technology upgrade is going to enable when these platforms do that. If you think about how we work and what we do in our daily lives outside of investments, we carry these things with us all the time, our mobile phone. So we're always connected, we're always in touch. You're not going to be able to give the right experience as a product provider or a list or platform provider if you don't upgrade your technology. You're not going to be able to compete against alternative industries out there that are vying for the consumer's eye, vying for their pocket, trying to get them to spend in their environments versus saving in our environments. And so if you don't embark on this, you're not going to get that right. The second thing is your costs are never going to go down. We've seen what inflation is like in SA. We know that there's going to be negotiations now around labor. We know that people are going to demand higher salary increases. If you've got people cranking handles, you're going to need to pay them more. And so that's going to drive up costs, and you're never going to bring those efficiencies out. And then ultimately, I think the last thing, if you don't bring this new technology as a product provider into the market, is how are you going to bring efficiencies into the financial advisors practice? And I'll give you a very simple example. We had an example the other day. We did some work with some of our financial advisors, and we said to them, okay, guys, let's run a quick example. We want you to do a living annuity in the existing method that we do, which is paper-based forms, etc. And we'll get one of the other people in the room to do it via the Innate platform that we built. Let's see who finishes first. We finished the living annuity on the Innate side end to end in just over 3 minutes. Just over 3 minutes, you had a living annuity done and dusted, and the money waiting to go into the market. On the paper-based form, I think the guys have got to page 3. Money hadn't even been placed, an email hadn't even been sent. Someone in a contact center hadn't picked up the app and started punching it in, and perhaps punching in the data incorrectly. So it fundamentally changes the game. If you don't use technology, you will absolutely be left behind.
Yeah, and I guess that answers my question around, like, what if we don't platform? So that's all good. I think it's mind-blowing to just think about these efficiencies, and also just thinking about that now, like, if you go from a 3-day to a 3-minute sort of turnaround time just to get this thing, and then waiting for money to go into the market, the new expectations you set. So first, you're going to wow people, and they're like, this is amazing. And then it becomes the new expectation, right? So for those companies, I guess, that are able to do that versus the ones that still take 3 days, if not longer, then that's definitely a big reason why this is so important. As I said earlier, I don't know how long ago did this journey start? I'm like, is it 5 years, 6 years ago? When did you actually start this journey?
So we started around 5 years ago on what we call our replatform journey, Francois. Many of our other sort of onshore providers at the moment are really only starting now in SA and starting their journey now. We had a lot of school fees to pay, and we've learned a lot of things over the 5 years, I'll be very honest. I'm sure you saw in that photo when you guys put me on screen, I looked a hell of a lot younger. So replatforming has definitely aged me a little bit over the years and given me a few more gray hairs. But we started around 4 years ago, our journey, and we thought of it quite fundamentally differently, Francois. When we started at Innate, we actually looked at how we could replatform our existing environments. And so for the viewers that don't know, Innate is part of the Liberty Group and part of the larger Standard Bank Group. And we're funded and we're an entity within them. And we had a look at what we had. And we sort of thought about, how can we go about replatforming our existing capabilities? And I soon realized that actually replatforming for me wasn't necessarily the way to go. And it was better to build a new business from scratch. We wanted to do something really different, and we really wanted to change the way investments are done in the South African market. And in order to do that, we needed to really start with a blank canvas and think about this thing completely different and turn it on its head. I'll give you a very simple example. Everybody talks about we've got one-time pins and digital signatures, etc. We worked quite long and hard with the regulator. I say we, actually, are product guys. They did an amazing job. And they got it right that, we have a signatureless process. We don't have one-time pins. We don't have digital signatures. And that was a very important thing for us to get right. How do we actually change the way the game is done? And you can only do that if you truly start from scratch. Otherwise, what you often end up with, Francois, is you take these old manual processes and you just digitize them. You put them in a digital format. And so you take the paper form and you put it into a PDF form. It's still actually the same thing. It's just, one's on a screen and one's on your desk. And so we really went about it and we thought about it differently. And yeah, I'm happy to say that we're through that journey and live in the market now.
Nice. But I mean, it's such an exciting journey. And I think you make such a strong point to say, what, you can't, sometimes they say, don't fix what's not broken. But I mean, we know that things are not working well. We know where service levels are. If you look at the other day, they did a poll in the UK where they were asking about what is the biggest frustration in your business? And the thing that most people then answered in the comments that wasn't one of the options to choose was the lack of service from product providers. And I don't think it's necessarily the lack of service. I think it's these old, antiquated processes, too few people. Yes, sometimes it's expertise, sometimes it's culture, sometimes it can be a lot of things, but it is such an important thing to say, well, we need to do it fundamentally different. And you can't take something there. If I were to go and build a house from scratch, staying with the house analogy, or I was going to just take my house and do things. I mean, the reality is, yes, I can knock out a few walls and I can do things like that, but ultimately it stays the same house and I can build on another thing, but it's still not as exactly what would have been maybe best for what we were looking for. So I think doing it from scratch it took, big kahunas, but I think it was a wise choice looking back from what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, absolutely, Francois. That house analogy you use is such a great one, and remodeling a house. I don't know if anyone's ever remodeled a house, but can you imagine you're living in the house now? And essentially, I think what a lot of guys have tried to do in replatforming is they want to put a new kitchen in while you need to eat in that kitchen at night. And so it's chaos. And anyone who's built a house and been married would know that it's a touchy slope to get involved in it. And really, when you think about platforms, that's what you've done. You've gotten married to the platform. They're an integral part of your business. And now you're about to go through this remodeling exercise. And so you need to go in with very wide eyes, if you are going to embark on this journey.
I mean, here's a big question for you. So, I mean, obviously you planned this well, thought this through. It was a long journey, right? It wasn't probably you also thought it was going to be 2 years and it turned out to be 4. But apart from something like that, what are some of the blind spots that there were where you really took the time, planned well? Because usually they say 90% is planning and 10% is in actually executing. But what are some of the key things that you missed, regardless of how well you planned and researched and thought about this and had loads of people involved? Were there any blind spots?
There were a ton of blind spots and a ton of learning and a few battle scars on my back to show that. I think the biggest blind spot for me was heavily underestimating the time it takes to create a capability like this. No one had ever done this before in the South African market. We had seen a couple of international players do it, and so there was no one with real experience locally to do it. We thought we were clever, and we got in a couple of overseas experts to help us, but they were just a couple, and we really wanted to, use the guys within the SA market to grow it, and use the skills and expertise here. And I found that the biggest blind spot for me was getting people to really think differently. You've got to hire. We use the term different smart people. When you bring people in that are, have been in this industry for many years, that have done things in a particular way for many years, they tend to produce things in that same way. And it's not to say that they're not innovative, but that's their history, that's their thinking, that's where they come from. And so, the biggest learning for us and the biggest blind spot was very soon we realized that we had to bring in these different smart people We had to really think about the game quite differently and build a very different culture within our organization. And, one of the big things I think that we try to achieve, one of the big things I know that we try to achieve was, if you listen to old Richard Branson, we sort of followed that saying of look after your people first. That's the people who you first look after. They then naturally going to look after your clients, and that's naturally going to look after your income statement. And we built our business around that ethic and that culture. And so we were very, very strong people focused. And so that was a blind spot we luckily learned very, very early on. And underestimating that timeline. It takes much longer than you think it does. The markets keep moving and changing, Francois, so you've got to keep adapting what you're building. Because
and I mean, I guess and in a 4-year time frame, technology is changing. Even like the thing you chose to build this on is changing. Like it's crazy, like what happens in that time period. So let's talk a little bit about financial advisors. And as I said also in the intro, like why should a financial advisor even care? I mean, this sounds like an innate issue and some of the other investment product houses, and that's their issue, not my issue. So how does this impact financial advisors on the ground?
So Francois, I just said that analogy of, remodeling the kitchen in your house. And if you've ever been married, you know what a tough job that is in terms of your relationship. And that's really why financial advisors should be concerned, worried, ask their provider, what's happening, how you're going about it, how it's going to impact me. Because really there's massive change that's about to come in that environment. If you think about replatforming, the first thing that's going to happen if you're a funder of replatforming a particular business is you're going to say to those teams and to that environment, okay, guys, great, we're going to fund you, start the build, but we don't want to spend any money on the legacy platform. Why? Because we know we want to get rid of it. So we don't want to fix the cupboard in the kitchen. We rather want you to put the new cupboard in the kitchen. But in the meantime, you've got to continue to still use that old cupboard, before the new cupboard comes in. And so there's what we've often seen and what I've experienced when guys replatforming, and some of the guys that I've spoken to around replatforming, is you do experience a drop in service levels. You experience a drop in innovation. You experience a drop in how you can cope with customer demands, and you start seeing errors creak in, and you start seeing leaks pop out in the boat. And sort of water start pushing its way through, so to speak, because really you're not spending money on that environment anymore. You're building something new. And generally, one of the things that I've seen a lot of corporates do, I'm not saying that everybody does this, but it's guys we've seen historically do this, is they take their best people in the business and they put them on the new project. And so now you're sort of stuck because all the good guys are gone and you're left with the other environment. And so what does that mean for you as a financial advisor? The other very big thing is, I said earlier, our biggest blind spot was time. Now, these things take a lot of time, but they also cost a lot of money. If I quote some of the guys and some of the numbers we saw Old Mutual in the UK with Quilter spend in excess of 300 million sterling to replatform that business. That's a massive amount of money. What systemic risk does that bring to a product provider when they're starting to employ that amount of capital into their replatforming environment? And so everybody thinks we can do it quite quickly and we can do it quite efficiently, but it always ends up taking longer and costing much, much more. And so, circling back to that question as a financial advisor, ask your provider the tough questions. Ask them, Mr. Provider, how's it going to impact me? Mr. Provider, if you stop spending money on this, how are you going to continue to service me? If you stop spending money on this, how are you going to continue to innovate so that I can execute the financial plans appropriately that I've put in place for my clients? How are you going to continue to cope with the regulation over this period? So those are very important questions that you should ask, and look them in the pupils of their eyes, the whites of their eyes, and make sure you get an honest answer.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess also everybody's got sort of their preferred provider, right? So if my preferred provider goes, I mean, you've given the questions one should be asking, but it's all fine and dandy to ask the question and get the answer. Like practically on the ground, what should we then do off the back of that? So now we know, Muniwarini, like we're going to do this in a year, we're going to do this, and it's so amazing and blah, blah, blah. We learn from all Innate's mistakes and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to do it much quicker, much more. Don't worry. Let's just hypothetically, that's the answer. Does that mean you sit back and you say, it's going to be okay? Because now again, there's another vision that popped in my head. When they worked on the N14 between Krugersdorp and Pretoria, it was going to take a certain amount of time, right? And it was, it's amazing now that it's done. But it took, I don't know, like it took almost 4 years, I think, as well. It was a very long time. So we really felt the pain when you had to go to Pretoria. Luckily, I didn't have to go there every day. But I mean, that also illustrates, it's like we know the end. We know that that's going to be amazing when this highway is done and redone. But hell to get there is absolute hell, if I may use that. But how do we then prepare on the ground? Like if we now know, look, our preferred provider is going on this journey. If they say 2 years, expect 4 years. Expect that service levels are going to drop. All the things that you mentioned. What do I now do from a tactical point of view or strategic point of view in my business during that time?
So Francois, look, I mean, that's a fantastic question. And that's really the hard nut to crack and solve here. Clearly, going and using many different platforms actually defeats the purpose of a platform and takes away some of that efficiency. But you're going to have to really watch it closely, and you're going to have a plan B, because the last thing you want is to start letting your clients down. The last thing you want is not to be able to execute your financial plans appropriately, and to not give the service levels that you've promised to your clients, to help them reach their financial goals and their financial needs. And so you've got to start, unfortunately, looking for alternative routes. It doesn't mean that you need to use them immediately, but I would say test them out. There's guys like us now that are out there. We finished this journey. Test us out. Come give us a use. Come see what it's like. You might actually find that there's, using your N14 analogy, there's no traffic on the alternative route that you found, and it might be a longer term solution that you quite enjoy. Not having to drive on a highway that's being rebuilt, or a highway that becomes busy as the years and years go by, and you just become one of many on that highway. And so start looking at some of the alternatives, look at what's available out there, and don't be worried about a plan B. A lot of the stuff that has been built is good. A lot of the stuff we built is fantastic, in fact. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that that alternative route might be a quicker route and a more comfortable drive to get to Pretoria at the end of the day.
Fantastic. Something like beam me up to Pretoria. Let's talk a little bit about the power of platforms. And I know there's a whole document. I remember with the summit, Innate was also one of the sponsors at the summit. And one of the documents that the team made available was the power of platforms. It's quite an insightful document to read through, and there's quite a lot of good insight, because I think this isn't only about Innate's platform or what Innate thinks about platforms. It's what can platforms in general do for you in your business. We've got to start connecting those dots, which I think is probably the name of your podcast as well, now that I think about it. But what questions, if I want to find the right platform to partner with, what are some of the questions that I need to ask from that point?
So the first thing that I'd ask, and look, we're extremely strong believers in financial advice. In fact, if you look at the Innate platform, it's been built around the financial advisor. That doesn't mean we don't give clients access. So at Innate, we've given clients access, and that's very important, because we want clients to feel like they're knowledgeable, like they're able to see what they can do, they have access to what the investment is performing, but we don't give them transactional capability. That always sits with a financial advisor. That is why you have a financial advisor, because he needs to control and work that plan. And so, what should platforms do? What should you be looking for? How does it help you? Well, platforms should be helping you to keep your clients informed, but they should be empowering you to keep control as a financial advisor. That's a very, very important thing. The other thing platforms should be doing is bringing efficiencies. And if you think about what I just said around giving clients access, clients don't have to phone you and bug you all the time about what's happening in the investment. They can log in and see, versus phoning your office, consuming back office resources, consuming time, feeling anxious because they don't have access to their information. So platforms really can help bring that efficiency to your office. Platforms can also, 10x your environment. I say 10x, do the same and get 10 times the result. So that example I gave earlier of how quickly it is to do a living annuity, the example of in a platform environment, you only need to key something in once, and the information and data is there. It's there forever. You can reuse it. So not having to do things from scratch every single time you want to do an ad hoc, or you want to purchase a different type of investment wrapper for the client or for the family unit. And so, it's really about bringing efficiencies to the advisor's back office, in my mind, and becoming a true partner to them. So, we've just spoken about replatforming, about the house, about what it means for your marriage. That's what this is. It's a marriage. And it's a marriage that needs to last a very long time. When we invest clients' money, when financial advisors give advice, it's not for, a 1 or 2 year and you're done and dusted. These are long-term plans over 20 years, over 30 years, over 40 years, trying to give people happy retirements, trying to give people, their dreams, help them meet their goals, their aspirations. And so this is what platforms can do, and they can fundamentally change the game in terms of how you work. You should be connected 24/7 now. Why should things not be processed real time? Why should they not be straight through processing? It works like that in all the other industries. And so when platforms wake up and they're able to do that, they're able to 10x what the financial advisor is able to achieve.
Yeah, and I think one of the big conversations that I have regularly with smaller FSPs and IFAs, etc., is that they don't have time, they don't have resources, they don't have the money sometimes to invest into technological solutions. They know the power, they know the worth, they know all of that, but then to get there, I mean, if you think about how many people it took you to go, I mean, this is a massive undertaking, right? But then my advice to them is like, look at what is available and what you can leverage in your business, that's already there. So I think that's an important one. But when you choose, it's got to be, because I always go on about technology is not a cost, it's an investment. But it is, if it's the right technology, it is an investment. The wrong technology is very much a cost from a lot of points of view. But definitely something that I'm wondering is, in my business, for example, if in a financial advice business, typically you have different segments of clients or different types of clients that you deal with. Is one platform able to service all of them? So if I choose the right platform, I'll be able to look after all of these clients, or is it a case of different platforms may suit different segments better, and I've got to consider more than one platform?
So some platforms don't service all clients, unfortunately. They've targeted a very particular section or segment of the market. And to be very honest, that's because they haven't used technology. So they haven't used technology to be able to take those many hands that they used to have and make light work of it by using technology. If I look at the platform that we built at Innate, it can service clients across the spectrum. It's full open architecture. When it comes to assisting financial advisors, we have put capabilities in place with our webinar series that we run. We have put capabilities in place in terms of tools and calculators that are available on the website. We run what we call Innate Connect sessions, where we connect with financial advisors and learn what their needs are to try and help them. And we've learned through those sessions, exactly as you've said, that there's a range of clients that financial advisors service. And we need to figure out how we can help you service those in the most cost-efficient way. Because like in any business, you've got a cohort of clients that are quite profitable, and you've got a cohort of clients that perhaps are not as profitable, but you still need them to have an holistic business. And we've really thought about that in Innate. And so we really do believe that we have this opportunity to service an entire client segment that financial advisors serve. And you have a close look at some of the capabilities of some of the existing platforms out there. They can't service everyone. They don't have all the capabilities. They don't necessarily have full open architecture. They don't have the ability to take smaller investment amounts. We have no minimums. There's no minimum with us at Innate. We have technology. The technology runs. You push the button, it executes. So as a result of that, there's no need for us to have a minimum. You can come and do a regular savings or a small lump sum with us, and it's no problem for us. We're very comfortable with that.
Yeah, it shows you. Like, I remember back when RDR was sort of first mentioned, and then one of the compliance houses went on this. They well, I guess all of them did, but there's one specifically. I was at a session where they were talking about, going through these practice management sessions and how do you now segment and blah blah blah. The whole story. And I remember looking. I was when was that? That was 2013. So I wasn't 40 yet. I was still on that side of the fence. And I was sitting there, and there was a lot of older advisors in the room, and they were all going on about the bottom end of the market who's not going to be serviced now, is going to lose out. And they were looking at all this stuff. Two things that went through my head. The one thing is you don't work with them anyway because it's not profitable. Secondly, technology is the answer. So I don't know how you don't see this. But But anyway, so I guess that also proves that is absolutely possible if you've got the right platform to be able to service a client of any size and build a relationship, which is where the real value is at anyway. So yeah, good stuff. Mickey, thank you very much. Any last words from you before we end off? Anything you would like to summarize or anything else you would like to share?
Maybe just to summarize, guys, if you've got a product provider, excuse me, and they are about to embark on a journey on replatforming, excuse me, go ask those tough questions. You don't need to be shy to ask those questions. In fact, it's your right to ask those questions. You're a consumer and a customer of that capability. And then, be aware of some of the things I've spoken about. I think that N14 analogy is fantastic. I know what it's like driving on a highway when they're building it. It's a nightmare. And so make sure you've got those, plan Bs, you've got those alternative routes in place. And then unashamedly, come give us a try. We've spent 4 or 5 years trying to get this thing right. I absolutely do believe we've got it right. And we've really thought about the game differently. And so come have a look. I think you guys are going to be pleasantly surprised with what we've got.
Awesome stuff. Mickey, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for all the insights and everything. Definitely we'll keep talking to you and Georgina and the team. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And wishing you well on this journey and to see where things go. And as everybody gets into this replatforming thing, there's some good times ahead. So thank you very much. And I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Alrighty, thank you very much. That was an amazing conversation. So our guest for episode 40 of season 3, which will be episode 200, now that I think about it, which is just absolutely mind-blowing, is going to be no one else than Dawie Rood. So yeah, looking forward to that one. And then next week, my guest is Anton Swanepoel. So we still got a way to go to get to episode 40. So the guest next week is Anton Swanepoel. Looking forward to that conversation. And yeah, we'll be back, this same time, same place next week. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. And remember to continue to raise the bar. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.